Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we will be doing some myth busting about eggs. So I often hear some vegans, many vegan activists, people trying to convert other people to veganism, using health as a reason to do so. So they will say that eggs are packed with cholesterol and this is really bad. It will lead to your arteries being clogged up and that can lead to all sorts of heart diseases. Now, this is quite a strong statement. It may or may not be true. The best thing to do is to have a really long, hard look at the evidence and see what it says. We do need to make sure that we're saying the right things to people, that it is based on a wide variety of evidence and based on the strongest evidence as well. So we really do need to be more careful about these sorts of things. So what we will do in this video is we will have a look at what all the studies are saying about eggs and cholesterol and how much it affects it really, and how much it affects your risk of heart diseases. There's just a few things that we need to make sure that we understand before diving into this topic. So we'll just quickly go over these things. So first of all, what actually is cholesterol? So cholesterol is a fatty substance. It's made in our bodies, it's made in our liver. It is actually used for many useful things like production of hormones, production of vitamin D, it helps with your digestion. You will sometimes hear of cholesterol, however, being classified into categories, into good cholesterol and into bad cholesterol. Now, you know, as it says in the title, it's the bad cholesterol in your blood that we really need to make sure we're keeping to a minimum. That's the cholesterol that is deposited in your arteries, which we really want to limit. So cholesterol can actually be consumed through the diet, as you know, as we've established, I think, at the beginning of the video. But this dietary cholesterol is found mainly in animal products, well, solely in animal products. So it can be found in things like liver, kidneys, we've got a list here, so liver, kidneys, prawns, crab, lobster, squid, octopus and cuttlefish, and in eggs as well, as per the title of the video suggests. And it is in fact the yolk in the egg which is the main source of cholesterol. It isn't the egg white, it is really concentrated quite a lot in the yolk. This dietary cholesterol doesn't necessarily, when you consume it, it doesn't necessarily translate into blood cholesterol. So that's what we're trying to figure out, is to what extent the cholesterol that can be found in eggs, when we consume them, how much does that actually impact your blood cholesterol and any heart outcomes? You know, as I said, saturated fat, that's a major thing that can lead to high cholesterol. Other things that really impact your blood cholesterol is physical activity. So it's important to make sure you're getting good amounts of physical activity. Also excess body fat as well. There's a lot of information on the British Heart Foundation website, which I'll link below, and that gives you a lot more information about this. So, leading on from this, you'd naturally ask yourself how much cholesterol is in an egg. So there's actually a website called howmuchcholesterolinanegg.com. So yeah, whole website dedicated solely to this subject. And they say about 186 milligrams of cholesterol in a medium-sized egg. Now the US Department of Agriculture also say that too. The cholesterol charity Heart UK give a bit more of a breakdown of cholesterol according to how big the egg is. So for one very large egg, there's about 256 milligrams. A large egg, 240 milligrams, a medium-sized egg about 200 milligrams, and for a small egg about 185 milligrams. So there's a little bit of an idea. So now I think we're ready to have a look at what the evidence says. I mainly looked at studies that were quite recent, so that have been published in the past 5 years, because it's important that we look at things that are up to date as much as possible. And also I tried to mainly focus on large-scale studies called systematic reviews and meta-analyses. As these studies are very large scale, so they will look at usually a variety of smaller scale studies and analyse it and sort of draw a conclusion from that. So I tried to focus on these larger scale studies as much as possible as well. And the evidence was incredibly mixed. So if I sort of divide the evidence into categories, there's some evidence that suggests keeping egg intake to a minimum, so less than 1 egg per day is the safest option. So there were a few studies that found that risk of some health conditions like stroke and heart failure, heart diseases, risk of these conditions were lower if egg consumption was kept to a minimum as much as possible. And then the risk of these conditions did increase as egg intake increased as well. And in terms of cholesterol, blood cholesterol levels, they found that eating eggs increase your bad blood cholesterol as opposed to diets without any eggs in. So that's one side of the coin only. So there was also some evidence which showed a slightly different picture, that probably about 1 egg per day produces the safer outcomes, the more beneficial health outcomes. So again, there were some studies showing that some health conditions like heart diseases, stroke, reduced as egg consumption increased, but only up to 1 egg per day. And then if your egg intake increased more than that, the risk of these conditions increased. So that's quite interesting. And again, with regards to the blood cholesterol, there was a study that measured the amount of bad blood cholesterol when increasing egg intake from 1 egg per day to 3 eggs per day. And increasing this egg intake did increase the bad cholesterol in your blood. And this was particularly the case if that level of egg consumption continued for a long period of time too. And moving on to some other evidence, so there were some studies suggesting that eating more than 1 egg per day was actually the most beneficial for your health. There were some studies that showed that general mortality and risk of some heart conditions reduced with a greater amount of egg consumed, even up to 2 eggs per day. And there were also a couple of studies that showed a benefit of consuming more than 1 egg per day as opposed to just 1 egg per day in terms of risk of heart diseases. So it does leave your head a little bit scrambled really, because it's just, it's really mixed. And there are some studies which were also just inconclusive as well, or they showed that there was actually no difference at all in terms of risk of heart conditions as egg intake increased. There was no difference. And most of these studies did conclude that more evidence is needed. So what can we take from all of this? Well, I think it's always useful to look at what other health organisations say as well. So with the NHS, they say on their website that eggs can be eaten freely as part of a balanced diet and should only be restricted if your doctor or dietitian says that it's needed because of a health condition. And again, they put the focus on the saturated fat rather than dietary cholesterol. The dietary guidelines for Americans, there was an update for 2015 to 2020. Now, they used to suggest keeping cholesterol intake to a maximum of 300 milligrams per day, and they abolished this in this update. And that was due to some large-scale studies showing that more than 1 egg per day, there's no harmful effects of that. And then again, there's a British Heart Foundation, so they posted an article in 2015, which was written by a dietitian actually, and they reported that moderate consumption, so roughly 1 egg per day, is unlikely to raise your risk of heart diseases. But those with a condition called familial hypercholesterolemia should be a bit more careful and should probably limit their intake to 3 to 4 eggs per week. And then the Heart UK Cholesterol Charity, they do actually, contrary to the American guidelines, they do suggest having less than 300 milligrams of cholesterol per day, which, if we're looking at what that means in terms of egg intake, is about 1.5 eggs in a day. But that's only if you are at risk of cardiovascular diseases or you already have high blood cholesterol. And they reduced that to 200 milligrams a day if you have the familial hypercholesterolemia condition. Okay, so, you know, taking into account all of that, the evidence and what the organisations say, it's very mixed. But it does seem like, in general, you can probably assume that eating up to 1 egg per day is unlikely to cause adverse heart health conditions, and even eggs at higher doses could be beneficial for the heart as well. I did see in the evidence that there were some discrepancies in terms of a person's ethnicity, and also in terms of the type of heart or health condition. There were some studies that showed that eggs influence risk of stroke in a different way to risk of other heart diseases, for instance. So that's worth noting. I think the main thing to conclude is that we really do need to be careful in terms of what we're saying to the general public with nutrition and health. You know, we can't misrepresent the evidence. It doesn't do anything for the vegan movement to do that. You know, it will just discredit, you know, other claims that are said if we're found to be dishonest. So just be honest about the effects of egg cholesterol on health. The evidence is very inconclusive. There's evidence going both ways at the moment, but small amounts of egg really is unlikely to cause you any health problems. It's probably absolutely fine for your health. So let's all remain unbiased and evidence-based. That's the way to go. So thank you for getting this far in the video. I hope it was useful for you. Please feel free to comment and like and subscribe. That would really help me, to be honest. And have a look at my website and Twitter accounts. I'll link those below as well. And also, if you would like a more detailed summary of the evidence, if you just go on my website, there's a contact form. Fill it in, asking for you know, the studies that I looked at and a more detailed breakdown of what the studies say, and I'm more than happy to provide that for you. So, thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you next time with another topic. Bye.